Hello and welcome to Tyrannus Gaming. Today we'll be taking a look at Nezha. Nezha? Chinese Astolfo, also known as Nezha. Let's go ahead and continue. We will be utilizing 20 times Corrupt Butchers. It will be Steel Path, the AI will be paused so I can explain what's going on, and the enemy level will be 145. Let's go ahead and discuss Nezha's passive ability. It allows you to slide across the ground like a child in a playground, at a much larger distance than a normal child would. As you can see, it makes for a little bit of fun. Nezha's number 1 ability is known as Firewalker. Firewalker does exactly as it specifies. It allows you to leave behind a trail of fire when you walk around. If you happen to walk around an enemy, you can cause a decent amount of damage with a decent amount of heat procs. I would also like to point out that any ally stepping inside this fire would be cleansed of all status effects. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to Nezha's second ability. Known as Blazing Chakram, it essentially throws this giant disc at the enemy and allows it to slide around and hit them, dealing heat damage. If you hold number 2, you can charge it up and hit one guy really hard. The status effects here are pretty much guaranteed. However, if you utilize this in conjunction with number 1, you can use number 2 and teleport, doing a lot of damage. In order to teleport, you simply need to throw the chakram and then press the number 2 button again. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Moving on to Nezha's third ability. This is known as Warding Halo. Scaling off your maximum armor value, Warding Halo makes you immune to status effects and absorbs 90% of the incoming damage to the health pool in the bottom right. While you're casting this, you gain a 3-second immortality window, meaning that if you're under heavy fire, you just simply need to use it, and you'll not only gain immortality during its cast time, you will also be able to flee very quickly. Also, before I forget, I would like to point out that Nezha's first ability actually increases your sprint speed. Moving on, let's discuss Nezha's fourth ability. Now at this point you may be asking yourself, but Tyrannus, why is this video so short? And that's because, my friends, Nezha is actually a very simple warframe to utilize. Well, let me go ahead and show you what Nezha's fourth ability is. When you cast this ability, it impales a whole bunch of enemies, and if you recast it again, it will slam them to the ground. Now you may think that this is the end of Nezha's fourth ability, but there's actually a hidden effect that the game doesn't technically tell you about. If you cast Nezha's fourth ability, and then utilize Firewalker, and then utilize Nezha's number 2 ability, you get an effect very similar to this. As you can see, when I threw off the chakram, it separated into multiple parts, and because the enemies were all impaled in place, they were very much easily able to be hit. Now you may have noticed that we did a bit of damage to them with our combination abilities, but I would like to point out that Nezha's ultimate utility has very little to do with damage output, and has everything to do with maximizing heat procs. Maximizing heat procs allows Nezha to reduce enemy armor by 50%, allowing everything else to strike the enemy really hard. Not only this, but all of Nezha's fire abilities allow you to cleanse status effects. This makes Nezha very useful for utility, but also allows Nezha to do crowd control pretty easily. Especially since fire causes people to panic, like cavemen stuck in a rock. This is not a joke, the enemy will be staggered during the duration of the heat procs, so feel free to boom and zoom around them in circles. Now let me go ahead and show you what all of this looks like in practical use. Nezha's number 2 ability also has the ability to cause the enemy to take more damage after the first strike. This means that subsequent hits with the number 2 ability will cause more damage. Before I show you the practical use, I just want to tell you that Nezha is probably the only Warframe that can actively get in and out of a horde of Xmas units, with very little retaliation allowed on their end. Let me go ahead and show you why, and please don't question anything else, or this entire strategy will collapse in on itself. Now allow me to explain what you just witnessed. You see, the fun fact is, despite the ability of melee weapons to do AoE, Nezha, on the other hand, can make yourself completely immune to Xmas effects, as well as the AoE that comes with many different statuses. And unlike some Warframes, Nezha is immune to crowd control while he is using this ability. And once you're able to deplete the overguard on the Xmas units, you can utilize his number 4 ability to impale them all, allowing you to wail on them without retaliation. And with Nezha's number 1 ability acting as a safeguard, the Xmas units will stagger and panic in place as they are on fire. Things on fire generally tend to not be able to attack back. This is why flamethrowers were so useful during World War II. Now, despite Nezha's war crimes, I hope you learned something new today. As this video was rather odd for me to make because Nezha is so straightforward, I felt like I'm missing something entirely. If I did, feel free to leave a comment below and inform me of what I completely missed. I hope you all have a wonderful day.